Hi, I'm Tucker Carlson, and tonight I'm joined with deceased former President Richard M. Nixon.
Thank you for having me, Tucker.
Yes. As well as aging, but still lively, David Frost.
Hello there, thank you for having me.
Of course. Tonight we will be recapping the famous Frost-Nixon interviews of the Watergate scandal, which happened in the 1970s era, as well as recapping what happened in the time after that. Thank you.
Yeah.
This next question now is for both of you. How did the interview actually come about? Because I remember, as I was a young boy, there was a lot of controversy and intrigue surrounding the topic as to whether it would be able to get off and get onto the air, honestly. So,
Well, let's start off with the day that Nixon resigned from office. As he was leaving and entering his helicopter, I saw the look on
Very
his...
fun ride.
Well, I saw him enter the helicopter, and I saw this
Good
look on
times.
his face. And right when I saw this look on his face, I instantly contacted his people, and I wanted an interview for them. However, I was sadly ignored for a while.
okay. Mr. Nixon, your thoughts?
While we did ignore David Frost, he was, after all, a talk show host in Australia. So we saw him as a joke, but then my advisor, Mr. Swifty, said that the economic side of this, we could get a lot more money and a lot more credibility towards my campaign to once again hold office. So we eventually did contact him to get the interview. Thank you.
Thank you both. Any further comments or concerns?
No, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Hi, welcome back to the Tucker Carlson Show. I'm Tucker Carlson. Our next question is for both of you gentlemen. How did you prepare for these set of interviews, and what mindset did you have in the days leading up to it? And specifically for you, Mr. Nixon, do you feel there was less pressure on this interview because you had already resigned from the office?
Well, the pressure from resigning was still upon me. I mean, I had given up the most powerful position that the country holds and that the entire world itself holds. Are you going to fix your timer in my discussion?
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, as for the interview itself, I found no pressure for David Frost, a man with no political background, no political interview history, could ever challenge me, Richard Nixon. Now, I also had Jack Brennan by my side, helping me prepare for the questions that David could, and he did ask me. Now, by being this prepared, the interviews I felt were swift, and I had no problem answering the questions. Thank you.
And the same question I would like to ask to you, Mr. Frost, but also sort of an add-on. Do you feel like you were more stressed out and felt more pressure, considering that this was the first time you had ever interviewed someone in such a high government position?
In this case, yes, I felt a lot more pressure as I was trying to get a confession out of Mr. Nixon that the American people never got. And also, I had to dig deep into my own pocketbook to fund Mr. Nixon. And not only that, I had 3 crack investigators to figure out all the facts about Mr. Nixon that he was trying to hide from all the people of America.
Yes, thank you. I think what both of these gentlemen were referring to is David Frost, correct me if I'm wrong, he had to fund the entire interview process, correct? Yeah, because no TV networks would sponsor him. So, and obviously the greedy person that former President Nixon was, he needed a $200,000 up front that David Frost...
Out of my own
how did you feel about paying that? Did you feel that that was very selfish, or...
It might have been selfish, but I got the job done. I got him in a interview, so I felt it was necessary.
If I may respond.
Yeah, you can respond to
Well, with the $200,000, I mean, I was living in San Clemente, California, which is expensive. So I needed to fund my gas for my golf cart and my beachside villa. I needed to power that. and just natural amenities that an ex-president deserves, I needed. Thank you.
You had just gotten out of the hospital as well, correct?
Yes, those nurses were very expensive, very expensive.
Both sides of the story come out. Cut. These next few questions will refer to your personal lives in the days prior to the interviews. Mr. Frost, to you first. I know that you were based out of Sydney, so how was traveling to and from California in those days prior and, trying to get an interview?
It was stressful, but the days right before our interviews happened, I was very relaxed with this girl I met. Caroline Cushing was her name. I was very relaxed. I went to a new Cinderella type movie with her the night before our first interview, so I took it as relaxed as I possibly could.
And you were the director of that movie, correct?
I was an executive producer of that movie.
Oh,
yes.
executive producer. There we go. And final question. I don't know if this is true. I heard a rumor, but you did actually, in fact, meet Caroline on your way to meet with Mr. Nixon the first time, correct?
Yes, sir, I did. I took her with me the first time and the last time I met with Nixon during those 1977 days.
Mr. Nixon, same question to you. How were your final days leading up to the interview?
I mean, very relaxing. I mean, we're going to an interview that is going to boost my political career back on top, after all. Just brushing up on my history, getting ready for possible Watergate questions, since that's what everyone wanted to know. Watergate, Watergate, Watergate. But most of all, I was just enjoying retirement and getting back on my feet after my illness. I also went to many charitable balls to make speeches, so I was getting ready for that as well. So, not a lot of pressure, but very, very busy.
Yes. Okay. When are we?
Tucker, go on.
Hi. Welcome back to the Tucker Carlson Show. I'm Tucker Carlson. These next couple questions, gentlemen, will be about the interviews themselves and, just the process. I did hear that there were contracts between the two parties that lined out what each interview would be about, the length, and what would and would not be allowed in each interview. Would you like to elaborate on that, Mr. Frost?
We had 4 different interviewing days, and on the first one, the first interview day, I came out with a bit of a risky question. I asked why Mr. Nixon did not burn the tapes during the Watergate process. Well, we agreed upon that the last interview day was going to be about Watergate, and I came out with the risk, and Mr. Nixon definitely beat me to it.
And you were trying to catch him by surprise and just catch him off foot by doing that, correct? And
Yes.
Did that work, or how did that work
Absolutely
out
not. Mr. Nixon took me down. Ask him yourself.
What did you feel about the first question? Do you think that you handled it well? Do you think you could have done anything better? Yeah.
Well, that first question, while it threw me off guard, I knew that it's what the American people wanted. So I used my knowledge and my past years of political experience to answer to the best of my abilities, and as David said, he had nothing to show for that question, and I completely annihilated him. So.
We can just cut there.
Yeah. I've got Frost here, Mr. Nixon.
Thank you, Swifty.
Hello, Mr. President. Nice to meet you.
How's it going, David?
Your beachside villa is very lovely.
Thank you. As you can imagine, it's quite expensive.
Yes, sir.
Now, the topic for this discussion today is the 4 interview segments for tomorrow.
Yes, sir. The first topic will be your childhood.
My childhood. So you could talk about my alcoholic father and my dead brother.
We've covered everything. We looked over the material.
All right. Thank you, Swifty.
Second topic will be foreign policy. Third topic will be Watergate, and the fourth one will be Nixon the man.
Nixon the man, huh? As opposed to what? Nixon the horse?
I promise you, Mr. President, everything will be perfect.
All right. I hope so, David. With the interviews tomorrow, I'm a little nervous to get my career back on track.
I promise you, everything will be perfect.
All right. Well, thank you for stopping by, David.
It's nice to meet you finally.
Thank you.
Mr. Frost, the payment.
Oh, of course, of course.
Need a pen?
Yes, please. Thank you. And who should this be for?
Richard M.
Swifty
Nixon.
Lazar.
Richard M. Nixon.
Swifty Lazar.
It's my interview, my money.
The president has a point. I'll write him down.
All right, thank you.
Here you go, sir.
Pay for my villa. Thank you, David.
Ciao.
Ciao, Mr. Frost.
Okay,
Cut.
That's good.
Woo! We finally
Thank
got
God,
it.
bro.
Dang, are there real checks in here?
Oh, none written.
Oh my.
Nope. Yeah, he's still recording.
Son of a bitch.
Really more a basic question, but how did the next two sessions, being the second and third session, go? We'll do a separate question on the fourth interview, as I know there were some interesting things that came up. But just any comments on the second and third session? Anybody want to take this one?
I'll take this.
You want to take it?
Well, going into the second interview, I had some knowledge of what to do. I started to sit straight up and pressure Mr. Nixon, but he still took over every question with long answers, drawn out presidential answers, and I still couldn't gain any ground on him. Same thing for the third one. I made Mr. Nixon seem even more presidential than he did when he was a president.
Yeah. Mr. Nixon.
Well,
your comments?
I thought the next two sessions went even better than the first. I mean, people were coming up to me and saying, I would vote for you if you ran today. I didn't vote for you, but I'd vote for you now. And that just
It's
blew
amazing
my
how an
world.
interview can do that.
Just blew my world as how well the interviews were going for me. And I just felt bad for David because he was getting canceled on every show that he had. He had no money, but at the same time, my beachside villa was just calling my name, and I couldn't wait to just celebrate there and get back into the political spectrum.
Speaking of being fired, your shows did get canceled, correct, during the second taping of the interview, right? Would you like to elaborate, or do you think is that too traumatic, triggering?
My show in Sydney got canceled first, and I was almost 99% sure the one in London was about to follow. So it was very rough. I was very stressed, and I was working around the clock for the last interview. I had barely any sleep, and it was just Mr. Nixon just completely destroyed me in the first three interviews. I was just stressed, so stressed.
Yeah, it's crazy, like people who have normal jobs looking like, oh, I wish I could have a job like that. But you do in the television business. You have a lot of stress. Am I right? I mean,
A lot of stress.
Yeah, I mean,
A lot of stress. I mean, look at the way we're dressed. Why wouldn't we be stressed? Look at us.
yeah, I mean, we just can't even get we're rambling now. we need to cut that. To recap the final interview session, it was the last of 4 interview sessions. It was 2 hours long, and it was specifically about the Watergate scandal and the subsequent cover-up by the Nixon administration. Everybody expected that Nixon would just get like his final knockout blow, and he would be prepared, and David Frost would be unprepared. But what happened in actuality was David Frost had found an unpublished conversation between Nixon and Charles Colson. And what that conversation did, it essentially showed Mr. Nixon, am I right by saying this? It showed Mr. Nixon that he admitted to knowing about the cover-up before
Yes.
the trial. Do you want to comment on that, or
No.
any comments?
Everything sounds
That,
correct.
that's the gist of the fourth and final interview session. David Frost got his knockout blow that he wanted, and he got the admission of guilt.
And then we'll show the video.